Aloha guys, continuing our August 2026 issue of Kawaiola. This one is by Ku'uwehi titled Community Seeks Stewardship of Punalu'u. Earlier this summer, dozens of Ka'u families gathered at Punalu'u Beach Park holding handmade cardboard signs reading, Respect our Waipana, and public lands not private hands. They were rattling under the weight of a sudden quiet crisis. The county's lease for the beach park was about to expire on June 30th. For generations of Ka'u Ohana, Punalu'u has been a vital source of subsistence and the ultimate gathering place for life's major milestones. The community's cultural identity is anchored here. Especially for me, born and raised on this beach, lived down here, fished down here, worked down here, everything down here, says Ka'u community leader Guy. If you throw me in the water up there in the middle of the night, if I look at the bottom, I know where I am. Ka'u native Kurt made the hour-long drive to the rally from Hilo, where he now lives in what he calls economic exile. A familiar reality for locals forced to leave their hometown in search of better-paying jobs. First thing you do is jump in Punalu'u. The waters hug you, says Dela Cruz. Ka'u is medicine. The barren landscape, mountains, winds, that's us. That makes us. It's about protecting that medicine. For 7 decades, public access to the medicine has hung on a fragile administrative thread. While a 2-month extension was reached to temporarily keep the park gates open until September 1st, the scare served as a sharp wake-up call. Hawaii County has operated the park under a $1 a year lease agreement with private landowners since 1954. The lease covers 6.8 acres and includes the pavilions, parking areas, and campgrounds. This park, however, is just a fraction of the nearly 150 acres in Punalu'u that has been under private ownership since the plantation era. Long before sugar plantations and resort developers, Punalu'u was a place of profound communal abundance. Even after the Mahele of 1848, the majority of the land remained in Hawaiian hands. Lot Kapuaiwa, Kamehameha V, claimed the more than 5,000-acre Punalu'u Aupua'a, while Kuleana parcels within the beach park area were awarded in the early 1850s to names like Kanekoa, Nawali, Kekapa, and Makaha. The landscape shifted significantly after the 1893 overthrow of the Hawaiian Kingdom. The loss of political power allowed corporate interests to systematically consolidate individual family lands, with entities like Hutchison Sugar Plantation and Helia Sugar Company absorbing most of these Kuleana lands. When sugar collapsed a century later, corporate entities departed, leaving local families to absorb the economic shock. Then came tourism, promised as an economic savior, but often leaving behind little more than broken promises and decaying structures like the empty Punalu'u Village restaurant sitting just mocha of the beach. For decades, a revolving door of investment firms bought and sold the land, bringing an exhausting cycle of ambitious resort plans, permit battles, and local resistance. What chapter is this? Chapter 6? Asked Dela Cruz. First came Sea Brewers Sea Mountain Golf Course community in the 1970s. Then came Punalu'u development in the early 90s, which ran into fierce community resistance that tied up their permits in court. The land was sold in 1994 to SM Investment Partners, which ended up withdrawing its permits 5 years later under intense community pressure. Then in 2006, a new developer proposed Sea Mountain Village with 1,500 condo units and 300 hotel rooms. Ka'u mobilized once again in opposition, but this time the strategy shifted from defensive resistance to permanent protection. I don't want my 5 boys to have to fight this in their lifetime, said Enriquez. Ka'u fought in 2007 to add Punalu'u to the county's Public Access, Open Space, and Natural Resources Preservation Commission, or PONC list. This history of extraction has occasionally sown friction in a tight-knit Ka'u as families wrestled with the desperate need for local jobs versus preserving their rural lifestyle. I'm tired of the division that developers bring into Ka'u, shared longtime community leader Earl, but we need the support of the community. For community leaders, healing that division means recognizing that decades of commercial interests have returned virtually nothing of long-term value to Ka'u. Instead of pitting neighbor against neighbor over resort jobs, Ka'u families are focusing on a permanent alternative, protection through community stewardship. Punalu'u is just not my home, said Enriquez. It's everybody's who lives in Ka'u. It's our home. For 2 decades, Punalu'u has lingered on the PONC priority list until now. For the first time in over a century, there is a very tangible pathway for local families to step in and steward Punalu'u into perpetuity. With the lease extension set to expire in September 1st, 2026, Hawaii County is actively working to the PONC process. The county faces an incredible tight timeline to secure an appraisal, negotiate the acquisition, and close the deal. For the families of Ku'u, the stakes are too high for another chapter of defensive waiting. The push to permanently return Punalu'u to the hands of the community is happening now. Aloha.